Hello and welcome tonight. Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi joins Occupy National Assembly protest in Abuja, opposing Senate's Electoral Act Amendment Bill that removes real-time transmission of election results. President Bola Tinubu addresses the National Economic Council Conference, pledging that his administration will decisively tackle terrorism and banditry. Senate declares zero tolerance for agencies using service-wide votes without accountability, insisting transparency and responsibility must guide all operations. And King Charles makes his first public statement on the Epstein scandal, affirming Buckingham Palace's full support for police investigations into allegations involving Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
In our business, Lagos State and UK governments launch plan to make Lagos West Africa's premier financial hub.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria Tennis Federation, the National Sports Commission, hailed players following promotion to the Davis Cup World Group 2.
And from the nation's capital, gunmen abduct 9 worshippers from St. John's Catholic Church in Ado local government area of Benue State.
We begin from the gates of the National Assembly, where former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, who is currently a member of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, Mr. Peter Obi, joined civil society organizations to stage a protest asking that federal lawmakers include compulsory real-time transmission of election results in the ongoing amendment of the Electoral Act. In his address, Mr. Obi says allowing Nigeria to go into the 2027 general elections without a clearer position on the transmission of results could lead to a repeat of the glitches that the electoral umpire INEC reported back in 2023.
Dozens of protesters, mainly from the civil society and members of the national opposition movement, in a protest march to the National Assembly in Abuja. The protest is to compel the National Assembly, especially the Senate, to pass the proposal for real-time electronic transmission of election results.
We are asking them to put the bill as real-time electronic transmission. That's what we want. Those are the main things. We don't even want 2 things.
If you can remember what happened the last time with Professor Mahmoud Yakubu of the glitches, that they couldn't, transmit results, we couldn't view results real-time. That is not what we want this time around.
The Electoral Act that was used in 2023, which led to the glitch that we had, because of that discretion that was given to INEC to decide what to do. And so Nigerian cannot again risk that kind of opportunity.
The heavy deployment of security personnel and this police barricade prevented the protesters from moving further. 20 minutes into the protest, the former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, who is now a member of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, arrives. Its efforts to make his way through the first gate of the National Assembly is also stopped by the police. Mr. Obi addressed journalists, insisting on the real-time electronic transmission of election results.
The election must be transmitted electronically from the polling booth direct. We don't want any transit point any longer. We don't want any glitch again. Glitch is finished. We want things to happen directly. No more glitch.
However, The electronic transmission of results is not the only demand by the protesters.
To say that allow the citizens to be able to print their PVCs, to be able to print their voter card online. I, for one, am a person with disability. I have gone to queue over time. I am an election observer and still I am a voter. I have gone to queue over time to even get my PVC and it has never happened. For me and other persons with disabilities and other citizens of Nigeria to be able to print their PVCs online to enable them vote, and this will even restore the interest to be able to come out and vote on election day.
The Senate at last week refused to adopt real-time electronic transmission of election results in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. And despite the various explanations by the Senate, this protest is one of the several reactions that have trailed the decision of the upper chamber.
Staying with the Electoral Act Amendment saga, the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum have called for the retention of Clause 60 of the 2026 Electoral Amendment Bill, which makes it mandatory for real-time electronic transmission of election results in the ongoing electoral law review ahead of the 2027 general elections. In a press statement by the leaders of the forum, the groups insist that free, fair and transparent elections are the foundations of democracy, and that any attempts to weaken these foundations amount to direct attack on the sovereignty of a nation and its people. The groups insist that the INEC Results Viewing Portal, IREV, was introduced to allow public viewing of electoral results in real time. Hence, when it is properly backed by law, it will remove secrecy, manipulation, and post-election confusion. Meanwhile, civil society organizations have urged the Senate to immediately adopt the House of Representatives' position, which includes the clause on real-time electronic transmission of results from the polling units in the ongoing Electoral Act amendments. At a news conference in Abuja, a coalition of CSOs also called on the electoral umpire INEC to promptly release the guidelines for the 2027 general elections under the current Electoral Act, allowing all stakeholders to begin preparations.
With respect to the provisions on the electronic transmission of results, we strongly recommend that the committee adopts the House of Representatives position mandating electronic transmission. Again, mandating electronic transmission with a modification addressing technical or technological specificity as currently drafted. Explicit references to INEC result viewing, IREV. Portal creates potential rigidity. Since electoral technology evolves, statutory references to specific platform requiring legislative amendments each time technological infrastructure changes. This approach aligns the existing Electoral Act provision regarding the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, which permits BVAS or any other technological device for accreditation, establishing a precedent for technology-neutral legal framework that combines mandatory obligations with implication flexibility.
President Bola Tinubu has reassured Nigerians that the nation will overcome terrorism and banditry. The president stated this at the National Economic Council conference presided over by Vice President Kashim Shettima and held in Abuja. According to President Tinubu, his administration is strengthening the security forces in the country to help defeat insecurity. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, now reports.
President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima arrive at the State House Conference Center, Abuja, for the second edition of the National Economic Council Conference. The meeting, which also has governors and deputy governors from across the Federation, members of the Federal Executive Council and representatives of international development partners, aims at delivering inclusive growth and sustainable national development.
Kashim Shettima, a very good partner on the journey for progress.
Addressing the conference, President Tinubu highlights efforts by his administration to reposition the nation's economy, including the Renewed Hope World Development Project and the National Development Plan 2026 to 2030.
We have strengthened the macroeconomic stability through improved revenue performance, stronger public financial management, and enhanced physical coordination. Third, we have prioritized infrastructural development across the transportation, power, digital connectivity, housing, and irrigation as a catalyst for inclusive growth.
In the face of growing security concerns in the country, including recent attacks by gunmen in Waro, Kayama local government area of Kwara State, President Tinubu reiterates his promise to tackle insecurity.
I'm living here again to further find means to strengthen our security forces, to defeat terrorism and combat. That I promise you is what has kept all of us sleepless at night. But I assure you that we will win with determination and resilience. We will overcome this unacceptable terrorism and banditry.
After his remarks, the president takes his leave. The meeting then continues, presided over by Vice President Kashim Shettima, who pushes for inclusive growth and economic progress that impacts positively on the lives of Nigerians.
The journey towards inclusive growth demands sustainable national development that balances expansion with equity, opportunity with responsibility, and prosperity with environmental stewardship. It is no longer enough to measure progress by GDP figures alone. We must ask harder questions. How does growth transform lives? How does it uplift communities? How does it strengthen national cohesion?
He leads the gathering to observe a minute's silence for victims of gunmen attacks and for members of the armed forces.
May the souls of all the victims of insurgency, banditry, rest in perfect peace. God bless us all.
On their part, the state governors and development partners promised to partner federal government in addressing the challenges confronting the nation.
The Nigeria Governors Forum approaches this conference with a clear and settled conviction that sustained national prosperity will not be achieved through centralization or fragmentation, but through cooperative, shared responsibility and disciplined implementation.
These renewed pledges from both federal and state governments are expected to translate into real improvements in security, the economy, and the standard of living of the citizens. In the next 2 days, the NEC conference will continue with technical sessions on various aspects of economic growth. The whole idea is to strengthen collaboration between the federal and state governments to improve on macroeconomic stability that guarantees job creation, poverty reduction, and national growth. From the banquet hall of the State House, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, former Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison Madueke returns to a London court as prosecutors continue presenting evidence in a high-profile corruption and bribery trial with global implications ongoing. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi joins Occupy National Assembly protests in Abuja, opposing Senate's Electoral Act Amendment Bill that removes real-time transmission of election results. President Bola Tinubu addresses the National Economic Council Conference, pledging that his administration will decisively tackle terrorism and banditry. Senate declares zero tolerance for agencies using service-wide votes without accountability, insisting transparency and responsibility must guide all operations. And King Charles makes first public statement on the Epstein scandal, affirming Buckingham Palace's full support for police investigations into allegations involving Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Any agency benefiting from service-wide votes without proper accountability will no longer be tolerated. This is according to the chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Adiola Olamilekon, who warned that the 2026 budget will mark a decisive break from past spending practices. Speaking at a one-day public hearing on the 2026 appropriation bill, Senator Olamilekon stated that every expenditure item will be subjected to strict scrutiny to determine how public funds are utilized. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, tells us more.
It's a one-day public hearing to signal the full commencement of the 2026 budget defense sessions. The Minister of State for Finance, the Accountant General of the Federation, as well as stakeholders appear before the Senate Committee on Appropriations over the 2026 budget.
Our revenue is increasing yearly. This is good news for Nigeria.
In a no-holds-barred session, government officials as well as economic pundits share an analysis of the state of the economy.
Nigeria will need about 111 years to mobilize the minimum 300 billion infrastructure investment that is needed. Therefore, an investment budget that mobilizes private capital is not optional but essential.
The Nigerian economy is actually a 3 trillion economy that has not had the leadership to be able to realize this potential. And that really is the challenge. Do you know that Nigeria is number 5 on the export for rare earth minerals in the world? This is something that we are not yet capturing in our economic analysis. The budget for debt service is 15.9 trillion. So that means that our debt service or our debt burden has become a problem.
On the issue of borrowing, the lawmakers were quick to respond.
It's not only this present administration that we are servicing its debt. From only God knows which generation administration we are referring to. Maybe during the military days, military era, we are still owing and we have to continue to pay. An attempt to fail to meet any financial obligation, our rating will drop automatically, both in the World Bank, both in the IMF, and other international rating agencies, and that's not good for our image as a country. So there is no way we can stop the process of borrowing.
He also issued a warning to the ministries, departments, and agencies.
It's not going to be business as usual, because Nigeria must move forward. We understand your challenges in terms of releases, but that is not enough. There are other sources of funding of some of your capital projects, which we are fully aware, especially from the service-wide routes. We appropriated the service-wide routes. It's within our confines to ask how that money has been applied. So if there are any agencies of the government here who are benefiting from the service-wide route and feel that no committee of the National Assembly can call and ask questions on how this money is being applied, should have a routine going forward.
The committee is also expected to invite the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL to clarify expected revenue contributions as it considers the privatization of certain federal government assets to raise funds for deficit financing. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezoke, Channels Television News.
And now to the Green Chamber, where the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is seeking more funding to improve its technology as it combats financial crimes. Chairman of the Commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, made this known during the Commission's 2026 budget defense session at the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health, Professor Mohammed Pate, at a separate budget defense session, has defended the presidential initiative for unlocking the healthcare value chain describing it as an opportunity for local production of pharmaceuticals. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
Budget defense sessions continue in the House of Representatives as the Minister of Health defends the ministry's 2026 budget proposal.
Incentivizes states.
Apart from figures, attention also turns to the presidential initiative for unlocking the healthcare value chain, PVAC, and the health sector-wide approach, SWAP, which seeks to improve the health sector.
We're raising resources, but not for government, for the industry, because it is the industry that will create the jobs and manufacture the products. There's a reason why Nigeria is not producing what it needs. It was consuming for a very long time, because a mechanism such as PVAC wasn't existent. SWAP is not a program. It just means a sector-wide approach. It's an approach to governing the sector. That's what SWAP is. But now it takes federal government and states working together.
At another session, the EFCC chairman arrives in the company of the chief executive of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit. The session is kicked off by the chairman of the House Committee on EFCC.
Permit me to commend the NFIU and EFCC's tireless efforts, with Nigeria having recently been delisted from the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, grey list.
The head of the NFIU speaks on the gains made so far by Nigeria in combating money laundering.
Nigeria has also exited the European Union's removal of Nigeria from the high-risk third country list for money laundering and terrorism financing.
For the EFCC chairman, the Commission's major challenge is funding in the light of technology advancements and innovations by fraudsters.
We had cause to have a bill, an invoice for just one item in my forensic lab for over 4 billion, just one item. Because the activities of the fraudsters are going, high-tech, the same way too, we are trying to stem the tide of this malfeasance, we must also upgrade our technology capacity.
The rest of the meeting continues behind closed doors as the House Committee promises to look into the requests made by the EFCC. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
In the UK, former Nigerian Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison Madueke has returned to court in London as prosecutors continue presenting evidence in a high-profile corruption and bribery trial with international implications. The Crown alleges that Mrs. Alison Madueke received cash and luxury benefits in exchange for influence over oil and gas contracts, claims she already denies. Today, jurors heard testimony from a luxury furnishings retailer and a former housekeeper as prosecutors sought to show how high-end purchases and property use were allegedly routed through intermediaries. Our correspondent, Jadana Olainka, reports from the Southwark Crown Court in London.
Today's hearing at Southwark Crown Court heard from 2 prosecution witnesses in the morning, a luxury interiors retailer and a former housekeeper, as prosecutors continued laying out their case against former Nigerian Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison Madueke. A witness from Thomas Good, a high-end London furnishing store, told jurors Alison Madueke was a regular customer, known simply as Madame. She was described as stylish and highly knowledgeable about design, personally selecting expensive furniture and decorative items, including a French writing desk costing nearly £7,000. But the court heard she never paid personally. Instead, purchases were settled by members of her entourage, including businessman Kola Oluko, with invoices issued under multiple names. Prosecutors say this supports their claim that luxury benefits were channeled through intermediaries. Jurors also heard from a former housekeeper who worked at The Falls, a detached property in Gerrards Cross, just outside the capital. She told the court that Alison Madueke was only at the property on a handful of occasions, but when she was there, staff worked extremely long hours, sometimes up to 17 or 18 hours a day without breaks. The witness said Alison Madueke was polite, confirmed she had one biological son and one stepson, and told jurors she met Kola Aluko at the property while Alison Madueke was present. She also also said the house was later left empty after Alison Madueke stopped using it. Alison Madueke faces 6 charges, 5 counts of bribery and 1 count of conspiracy to commit bribery relating to alleged conduct between 2011 and 2015. She has pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors allege she received cash payments and luxury benefits, including access to high-end London properties and furnishings, in exchange for influencing oil and gas contracts. The defence disputes that, arguing she had limited authority and denying any wrongdoing. Proceedings continue as the Crown builds what it says is a wider financial trail. Juliana Olayinka reporting for Channels Television News at Southwark Crown Court.
Back here in Lagos, the nation's commercial hub, for an update on the Kara Bridge following the commencement of repair works on its expansion joints. Earlier today, we brought you a situation report on traffic conditions at this corridor. As you can see, this evening, traffic is currently flowing freely on the inbound route into Lagos, a sharp contrast to the heavy congestion experienced during the morning rush hour when repairs first began. The federal government had announced a 6-week partial closure of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to carry out urgent repair works on the expansion joints at the Kara, Magboro and Arepo Punch bridges. Earlier in the day, officials of the Federal Road Safety Corps, led by the Lagos Sector Commander, Mr. Kehinde Hamzat, were on ground at the Kara Bridge repair site, managing traffic as motorists navigate the construction zone. Mr. Hamzat assured that the FRSC will work closely with other security agencies throughout the repair period to ensure seamless traffic flow, warning that driving against traffic will not be tolerated.
We have done a strategic deployment along the corridor. If you can see, no one is allowed now to drive against traffic. Right from Wariwa, that's where people try to enter the long bridge, but we refuse. The DPO Wariwa and other people are doing a yeoman's job, because we have the men of the Nigerian police right there at Wariwa, Nigerian Army, and of course our men are all there ensuring, even trace, we are all there ensuring that no one drives against traffic. Yes, people coming into Lagos will feel some pains, because definitely as a result of the construction, there's a form of backlog. But if it's moving, it will be better than we blocking both sides of the road. All we need is discipline. Discipline. We have arrested some people who try to drive against traffic, and they have been put in places they may be fined, as well as presented before court of competent jurisdiction. Towards evening, traffic flow will be more of outward Lagos. So the construction site would receive less of traffic. But our men will always be on ground, because we have scheduled them on shift, including men of other agencies, because like you can see, we cannot do it alone. You see the military band, you see the trace people, you see our own vehicle. All of us have agreed that as long as this project continues, we will always be there.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Lagos State and the UK government launch plans to make Lagos West Africa's premier financial hub. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's now head to the nation's capital, and Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Aitunde. It's great to see you. We begin in Benue, and it's yet another worrying incident of insecurity as the State Police Command confirmed the abduction of 9 worshippers at St. John's Catholic Church, Ojije, in Utonkon district of Ado, local government area of the state. The incident occurred on Sunday evening when gunmen stormed the church during a vigil and abducted the worshippers. Speaking in a telephone interview with Channels Television in Makurdi, a former councillor representing Ukwenyo Ward in the Ado Local Government Legislative Council, Mr. Emmanuel Uda, described the happenings as a targeted and well-planned attack on the church. He expressed concern over what he called a growing sense of abandonment by government at all levels, despite repeated reports of similar occurrences in the area. He appealed to the government to intensify efforts to secure the immediate release of the worshippers. According to the State Police Public Relations Officer, Tactical units in collaboration with local vigilante groups have been deployed to track down the abductors and rescue the victims. Well, over to the courts now. The Court of Appeal Abuja has decided that the Senate acted within its powers when it suspended the lawmaker representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, for misconduct. In a unanimous decision by a 3-member panel of justices, the appellate court said it was satisfied that neither the appellant's parliamentary privilege nor her constitutional rights were breached as a result of her suspension from the Senate. The court, however, vacated the contempt proceeding and 5 million naira fine that were awarded against Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan over the satirical apology she made to the President of Senate, Godswill Akpabio. In the lead verdict delivered by Justice Abba Mohammed, the appellate court held that the President of Senate was not wrong to have denied Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan the opportunity to speak, since she was not on the official seat that was allotted to her during plenary February the 20th, 2025. It held that the President of Senate is empowered by the rules to allocate seats to members, adding that lawmakers are only allowed to speak from seats allocated to them. Well, a warning is going out to revenue-generating agencies from the federal government for them to check revenue leakages in their operations. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, Mrs. Fatima Mahmood, made the call when she represented the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola, during a capacity-building workshop for board members, management and all area managers of the National Inland Waterways Authority in Abuja.
Challenges of revenue leakages, weak enforcement of regulations, inefficiencies in licensing and tariff administration, inadequate data on traffic and assets, safety lapses, and in some cases, practices that undermine public confidence is at the heart of this retreat, organized by the National Inland Waterways in collaboration with the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. In his speech, the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, commended NIWA for taking steps to strengthen its capacity to prevent corruption and promote ethical culture.
I commend the board and management of NIWA for taking the bold step of looking inwards and strengthening capacity to be able to prevent corruption and promote ethical culture in the authority. The ethical culture of an organization defines its integrity, profile, and directly influences its credibility, operational effectiveness, and public trust. For institutions with strategic national responsibilities and significant regulatory and revenue functions, the entrenchment of a robust integrity system is not optional, but essential.
The need for NIWA to adopt technology solutions, automate processes, and implement robust governance frameworks to enhance system integrity and revenue generation is brought to the front burner.
This retreat could not be more relevant. Integrity is not an abstract virtue that we merely admire from a distance. It is a practical discipline, an art and a practice that must be woven into every system.
System integrity is inseparable from good leadership. Leaders do not merely manage resources, they shape the culture. Where leadership is principled, disciplined, and purposeful, ethical conduct follows and the performance improves. Where leadership tolerates ambiguity, weak controls, or selective enforcement, the system gradually corrodes.
The two-day retreat is expected to develop strategies that will significantly increase internally generated revenue of the agency to fulfill its mandate.
And that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to Ayotunde for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Millicent. Members of the Nigerian Association of Dermatologists have urged Nigerians to take the anti-skin bleaching message home, as it can dissuade those already involved from continuing in the negative practice. They made the plea while on a roadshow to help spread the message, which took them to the Trade Fair Market located on the Lagos-Badagry Expressway in Lagos. In continuation of their relentless effort to discourage Nigerians from the harmful practice of skin bleaching, members of the Nigerian Association of Dermatologists are at the Trade Fair Market, located in Ojo local government area of Lagos State. They start their enlightenment drive at the Abia Gate section of the market, and their message is clear. There are dangers involved in the usage of harmful creams on the skin.
No be say you go say, me I know they bleach, oh. It gets sometimes we they call them toning, we they call them brightening, we they call them say you want glow, you want pop.
Sometimes when they tell you nothing they shake, you go there fair, no problem. But you go understand, say, as they rub these things, they get side effects. So when I know they rub this thing, I bet.
After stating their purpose of being at the market, the medical experts led by their president, Professor Desetima Altrade, visit shops distributing flyers at this business hub that attracts a massive influx of people, estimated at over 2 million daily. The medical practitioners say prevalence of skin bleaching is heading towards an alarming proportion. Hence the need to meet with the people and inform them the danger signs when purchasing a skin cream.
When you go to purchase a cream from a cosmetic shop, you see buzzwords like glow, whitening, maintaining, toning, gold, fair. You run away from such creams.
The supposed liking that you get with skin bleaching is temporary and it's transient. Eventually the skin becomes thin, it becomes pale, it becomes much darker, it becomes much more unattractive than whatever it is one was trying to address in the very beginning.
The roadshow to reverse the negative effects of skin bleaching provided an opportunity to enlighten the public about protecting their skin from the sun.
Even the people in the market are aware that this is a problem and they're happy that we're talking about it. And we've also tried to educate the people on how to protect their skin from the sun and how to have a good looking skin. So I think we've been well received in the market.
According to the NAD, the prevalence of skin bleaching in Nigeria ranges between 40% and 84%. A 2023 data from the World Health Organization African region reveals. The association, however, declares that it will not give up the fight against all manners of skin bleaching until Nigerians are saved from this menace. So what's happening in the world of business? Well, let's find out with Will Ibong.
Thank you, Ayo. Now, the City UK, in collaboration with the UK government, Lagos State Government, LIFC Council, and Enterprise NGO, has launched a report to establish Lagos as West Africa's premier hub for international finance. The plan aims to attract global investment, foster innovation, and drive sustainable economic growth. The report recommends an independent financial center with clear regulations, simplified tax rules, and investor-friendly policies. Early focus areas include green finance, fintech, and commodities trading. Officials say the Lagos International Financial Center will create high-value jobs, deepen financial markets, and strengthen the UK-Nigeria partnership. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu described the project as a major step to enhancing trade, market competitiveness, and public-private collaboration in Nigeria's largest economic hub. And this governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, has cautioned that despite recent economic gains, the country still faces serious threats to macroeconomic stability, particularly with general elections approaching next year. Speaking at the National Economic Council conference at the Presidential Villa, Mr. Cardoso cautioned that high liquidity in the financial system and aggressive election year spending could quickly reverse the central bank's progress.
Macroeconomic stability remains the most effective enabler in investment and increasing outputs across agri, manufacturing, and service value chains. Goes without saying that without stability, there will be no growth. So I believe if there's something positive that has come out of this, is the fact that we now have stability. Danger ahead, the risk we must manage, and I thought this is a very important slide, liquidity overhang. There's a lot of liquidity that still remains within the system, and we've got to manage this very, very carefully. So we are not out of the woods yet. The election cycle, typically election cycle, a lot of money gets pumped into the system. This has to be watched to ensure that it does not destabilize and challenge the very, very bold reforms which have brought about stability to the economy.
And speaking of tackling challenges, the Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA, has joined forces with the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, to cut cargo dwell time at Nigerian ports, currently averaging 21 days to the regional target of 7 days. The initiative stems from a stakeholder meeting in Lagos where government regulators and private sector representatives identified practical solutions to streamline port operations and improve vessel turnaround. The NPA is also working with the International Maritime Organization to deploy a port community system, a digital platform designed to remove manual bottlenecks and support seamless trade across the country. And now we're checking with the domestic equities market, which opens the new trading week with another historic high. Yes, John Mekwa.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report, where buying interest continues on Dangote Cement today, making it the market mover at the close of trade. It gained almost 60 naira to close at 739 naira 90 kobo. An interesting story also with the sectors today contributing to what Dangote Cement has done. We see the banking counter, it's down 0.04%. It's not so much. Consumer goods, however, is 0.75% in the green. But the biggest story today is oil and gas. And this counter has hit a new high, a record high today, and it's mostly because of Aradel. After they shared their full year report, which has been on for a couple of days now, but it seems it's piquing the interest of investors now, and so we saw that. And Aradel brought in, well, along with other stocks, 1.424 trillion naira. So we're now at 111 trillion naira level, and the all share, which opened at 171,000 level, is up to almost 174,000, and it's 1.30% in the green. So we start this week pleasantly with the bull.
Meanwhile, in Japan, the Nikkei 225 jumped past 57,000 for the first time before pairing gains on Monday after Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi won a landmark election victory. Let's see their closing numbers and those of other major global equities. And that's business. I'm Willie Bunk. It's back to you, Ayo.
Thank you so much, Will. Simon Pusey is up next with Around the World in 5 from our London studios.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A Hong Kong court has jailed pro-democracy tycoon Jimmy Lai for 20 years after he was found guilty of national security offences last December. It is the harshest sentence under the controversial national security law, which China says is necessary for the city's stability. Lai, who is a British citizen, was one of the loudest critics of Beijing, often using his pro-democracy paper, Apple Daily, as a tool of protest. 6 former executives of the paper were also jailed on Monday, from 6 years and 9 months to 10 years.
It's obviously heartbreaking, but unfortunately it's not unexpected. Look, I think what was unexpected was that it took 5 years to get to this point. The last 5 years my father has spent in solitary confinement in the maximum security prison. His health has massively deteriorated. But the outcome to this life sentence, essentially, he's 78, so even if he got 3 more years, that could very well be a death sentence. This life sentence is something that he always knew that was a possibility.
Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's Liberal Democratic Party is basking in a historic election victory in Japan. The LDP secured 316 out of 465 seats, the first time a single party has won a two-thirds lower house majority since Japan's parliament was established in its current form in 1947. The Japan Innovation Party, the LDP's coalition partner, won in 36 more constituencies, taking their combined total to 352 seats. The resounding mandate is a gamble that paid off for Takaichi, who now faces the challenge of reviving Japan's economy and tackling cost of living issues. Survivors of the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have appeared in an advert calling for the release of more files relating to him.
After years of being kept apart, we're standing together. Standing together.
In the 40-second video from the World Without Exploitation group, released in the US on Super Bowl Sunday, survivors held up photographs of their younger selves and said, "We all deserve the truth." The US Department of Justice was required by law to make all the files public in December last year. However, only some have been released, many with redactions. Senegalese police say they have arrested 14 people and broken up a paedophile gang operating between the country and France. Those arrested, who are all Senegalese, were part of a transnational criminal group that had been operating since 2017, according to a police statement. 4 of the accused are said to have been acting on the instructions of a Frenchman arrested in France in April 2025 in exchange for money transfers. Centre-left candidate Antonio José Seguro is poised to comfortably beat his far-right rival to the Portuguese presidency after a runoff vote. With 95% of votes counted, Seguro has won 66%, with the leader of the far-right Chega party, André Ventura, trailing behind on 34%. The two men went head-to-head in a campaign that at times was overshadowed by deadly storms that has lashed the country in recent days. Seguro has been backed by politicians on both sides of the aisle, with several conservative figures voicing support for the moderate socialist to see off his far-right opponent. Thousands of self-declared non-socialists had signed an open letter backing Seguro for president, including former conservative ministers. Ebo Taylor, the Ghanaian guitarist, composer and band leader whose work helped to define the highlife genre and influence generations of African musicians, has died at the age of 90.
Onward we go, it's victory. Onward we go.
Born DeRoy Taylor in the city of Cape Coast in 1936, he rose to prominence during the late 50s and early 60s as highlife became Ghana's dominant music form. He played with the era's leading bands, including Stargazers and the Broadway Dance Band, and gained a reputation for a distinctive guitar style and detailed arrangements.
1, 2, 3.
And after nearly 2 decades, Pakistan's famous Basant or Kite Festival has returned. Marking the start of spring, it dates back centuries, but was banned in 2007 after several years of injuries and fatalities caused by sharp kite strings. In a bid to try to make the festival safer, it's now been limited to only 3 days. It means for many children, this is the first time they've ever seen kite flying in the skies above Lahore. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Just before sports news, King Charles has already made his first intervention in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, saying that Buckingham Palace is ready to help support the police as they consider allegations against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in the process.
Hello and welcome to Sports News. The National Sports Commission has commended the Nigeria tennis players following the country's qualifications to the Davis Cup World Group 2 after a hard-fought victory over Uzbekistan in the World Group 2 promotion playoffs. Daniel Adele emerged as the hero of the tie, firing Nigeria past Uzbekistan 3-1 to cap an impressive home campaign at the historic Lagos Lawn Tennis Club 1895. President of the Nigeria Tennis Federation, Victor Che, says the target is now to gain promotion to Group 1 by September. From tennis to football, where the Nigeria Premier Football League Match Day 25 game between Wiki Tories and Katsina United ended in a dramatic 4-all earlier today after the fixture was initially abandoned on Sunday. The game, played at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Stadium, Bauchi, was halted following crowd unrest that erupted shortly after Katsina United striker Uche Collins scored his second equalizer to make it 3-all. The remaining minutes of the clash was played earlier today, with the Mole hosts taking the lead in the 95th minute. The visitors leveled things in the 89th minute to make it all square. After the shows, Eddie Howe says he would resign if he feels it's the best thing for Newcastle after a dismal run that has dropped the Magpies down to 12th in the Premier League. Howe was twice led the club into the Champions League and ended his 70-year wait to win a domestic trophy by lifting the League Cup since taking over at St. James's Park in 2021. And that's your Sports News tonight. I am Kelly. Gigas, back to you today.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. A Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi, joined Occupy National Assembly protest in Abuja, the nation's capital, opposing the Senate's Electoral Act amendment bill that removes real-time transmission of election results. And President Bola Tinubu today addressed the National Economic Council conference, pledging that his administration will decisively tackle terrorism and banditry. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun, and you have a good night.